Hello learner, greetings of the day. Let's discuss about the important concept in OpenGL, that is double buffering. Till now we have seen OpenGL programs with single buffer. But now here onwards we will see how the double buffer is implemented and where this double buffering is used. Okay, you can just see here. Double buffering is the one, as the name itself indicates, here we have two buffers. So the usage of multiple buffers, more than one buffer, okay, it increases the throughput of the device. So here, and thus helps, it prevents bottlenecks. So what is it actually? It is helping to increase the throughput with multiple buffers. So here throughput is nothing but, especially for animations, if at all I have to display some animations, that is graphics with the movement, with the animations like translation, rotation, scaling. So if I want to have such scene to be displayed, or if I want to display such animations, this multiple buffers will increase the efficiency. Next, in graphics, double buffering can be used to show one image or a frame. So what is a frame? If I have an animation, then each image there you call it as a frame. Animation is nothing but the series of images, right? Series of images. So there each image you call it as a frame there. So where a separate frame, so whenever such animations you have to display, series of frames you have to display, right? So that series of frame, when you have to display one frame after the other, you may have to display. So one frame you can keep it ready by the time one frame you can display. By the time you display that one frame, the next frame you can keep it ready in the other buffer. So two buffers you can make use here. One frame you call it as one buffer, which is ready to use buffer. The other buffer you can say the buffer which is behind that, you can call it as a next buffer, which is going to keep the things ready for the next round of display. Okay, we will see that in detail. So double buffering finally means that there are two frame buffers. One buffer actually keeps image on the screen. So one buffer will always maintain the screen. That means the final image that you display on the screen will be maintained. And while the second buffer, that maintains the next image that you are supposed to display. Okay, so what do you mean by the first image, second image? That is nothing but the series of images, series of frames that you want to display if you want if you are displaying a animation. Okay, so here the you can just see here I have shown this is the front buffer and this is our back buffer. Okay, this is our back buffer, and here this is nothing but our display window. This is our display window. So whatever the images that you want to display, finally here in display window you are displaying the animation, right? Animation is nothing but series of images, series of frames. So all these frames, from where does it come? It comes from the buffer. So here our buffer is divided into two parts. One is front buffer and the other one is back buffer. So front buffer always will contain the image that is ready to display. Or you can say at this instant of time, the image which you want to display will be first sent directly to the display window from the frame buffer. Now what will this back buffer contain? Back buffer will contain, this is say image 1. Back buffer will contain the next frame or the next image that you have to display after displaying this image 1, right? So here image 2 is the next image, next frame that you have to display, okay, after displaying image 1. So here back buffer contains the next image. So now once you push this image 1 onto the screen, front buffer becomes empty. Now what you can do, you can push this image 2 from the back buffer to the front buffer, okay, and after pushing image 2 to the front buffer, now here onwards your image 2 is ready to display. So now anyways I1 image 1 you have displayed. So now the second turn is to display this image 2. So by the time your image 2 gets pushed into the front buffer, now your back buffer is also free there, right? Now you can get image 3. into the back buffer. So this is how series of images you can display onto the display window with the help of these two buffers. So this becomes very easy. In OpenGL, we have a function to initialize this double buffer. So our function is glut init display mode, and we have already seen that glut RGB is a color buffer. So this you initialize, and along with that you also initialize a buffer, and that buffer is double buffer. So what is this double buffer there? It indicates here two buffers. So as I already said, this is our front buffer, and next this is our back buffer, and this is our display window. Okay, this is our display window. So the moment we call this glut init display mode, our buffers are initialized, and then very important function that you use here is glut swap buffer. So what is this swap buffer does? Like I already said in my previous slide. So what was that? Image 1, that is the very first image that you want to display directly on the display window, you have it in front buffer. So image 2 is the next image that you have here in the back buffer. So after you push, so it is something like, see here, two stages. The displaying of image happens in two stages. What is that? First, image 1 will be displayed on the display window. So what is this basically happening? It is flushing the pixels corresponding to image 1 from the front buffer to the display window. So this flushing takes place here in the first step. Image 1 is directly displayed on the display window. Second stage is you get the contents, that is get the image 2 to the from the front back buffer to the front buffer. Get this image 2 from back buffer to front buffer, or in other words, push the pixels from the back buffer to the front buffer, right? So basically what are we doing here in two stages? We are swapping the buffers. So swapping the contents of front buffer to display window, at the same time swapping the contents of back buffer to the front buffer. So here swapping takes place. So here you call a function glut swap buffer, which basically swaps back buffer and front buffer and then pushes the contents from front buffer to the display window. So this is how your OpenGL function works with the two buffers, double buffers. Also we have here the colors that is written to the frame buffer. So along not just the pixels, we have also the color information maintained in the buffer, right? So here we can use the GL draw buffer function in order to write the color information into the frame buffer. So how the colors are written into the color buffer? So you call the function GL draw buffer. So you pass a parameter constant here, so GL underscore back. So this actually writes the colors into the back buffer first. Okay, if I want to write a color information or store the color pixels in both the buffers, that is back buffer and front buffer, both front and back, you can make use of this function GL draw buffer, where you pass the parameter GL front and back both. Okay, so these are the two extra functions that you can make use in OpenGL. Let's discuss about the timer function now. So how to use a timer in OpenGL? So we can make use of a function called here, that is glut timer function, and here you can see the syntax of it. The first parameter is the duration, which is in terms of milliseconds. So how long the graphic should sleep, or how long the screen should sleep there, so that is this delay here what you're specifying. And the next parameter here is the function, user defined function here, which you can pass as a second parameter. Then the third parameter is a value, an integer value that you pass. This third value, integer value, is of your choice. Okay, so you can just pass a contiguous number 1, 2, 3. Okay, so depending upon the timer that you're associating. So example, you can see here glut timer function, and the three parameters I'm passing. First parameter is the sleep or the delay in milliseconds, 1000 milliseconds. So you can see this parameter is timer function. So here the timer it's nothing but the user defined function where you actually define the delay. So you can see here 1000 is the delay that you give specify before you call the function there. Okay, then you have this is an integer value that you pass. So second function, you can see 2000 milliseconds I'm passing as a delay for the function timer function, where actually you can define the sleep function or delay there. And then this next integer value, contiguous value 2, you can pass. Okay, so here glut timer function is the one which registers the timer callback function, so at least to these many milliseconds. Okay, so it registers this function. So this actually acts as a pointer. This function is actually acts as a pointer to your callback function timer. Okay, so next value parameter here, that is the third value to the timer callback, will be the value of the value parameter to glut timer function. So it's nothing but an integer value, all that it means. Okay, so multiple callback functions you can pass, multiple timer callback function you can pass, same timing you can give here or different timings you can pass, but remember this third value you should pass different. Okay, next is how to design an interactive program. A good interactive program, what are the different factors a good interactive program should have? When I say an interactive program, it means it's an OpenGL program that you write which is mainly used for interacting with the graphics. So a good interactive program should have a very smooth display. What is the meaning? The graphics that is displayed on the screen should be a smooth one without any distortion, without any flickering effect. So here a very clean display with the clean graphics you expect on the window. Next, a variety of interactive devices on the display. So what is the meaning of interactive devices on the display? You make use of several input interactive devices like mouse, keyboard, menu options, sub menu options. So all these are the interactive devices you can have it on the display variety. And next we have a variety of method for entering and displaying information. So you can make use of different glut callback methods or user defined functions there for entering and displaying the information. And then an easy to use interface should be there always. It's a graphical user interface, so it should not be, one should not find it difficult to interact with the graphics, like menu that maybe that you're creating or the mouse or key, through that easily you should be able to interact with the graphics. Next, feedback to the user. So it means that if any error occurs or if some wrong button you're pressing, there should be a feedback to the user given in the form of a dialog box there, or which should be displayed in the form of a text there saying that you go to this option or use that option, use this option is wrong, something like that. Feedback to the user should be provided here on the screen. Next, tolerance for user errors. So it should not crash, the system or the window should not close at once, or it should not exit if any error occurs. So it should be error tolerant. And finally, a design that incorporates consideration of both visual and motor properties of humans. So it is like the graphics that you're displaying should be visually realistic. So it should be visually realistic, and then motor properties of human, that is when you're using the mouse button, as in when you move the mouse, all the that motor property of human also should be incorporated in the design. So as in when you move the mouse, there should be an interaction there, or it all depends upon the user, how he interacts with the display or how he interacts with the graphics. So all these are the properties that a good design should include, a good interactive program should include. You also can have toolkits, widgets, and the frame buffer. So you can have a paint program that can be used for interactive tools. It's something like you have suppose if you make use of a paint, okay, you have there several menus given, and you can just click on any option and provided by the menu there, and that is how you can choose different options and you go with the paint there, right? Similarly, the same type of application you can have here in graphics as well. You can have such menus appearing on the display window, and with the help of those menus you can develop several basic primitives you can display. You can add attributes, you can change the color, or you can provide animation effect there on the graphics. So such type of interactive tools can be developed, okay, from your end. And you can also have extra widgets like slide bars, dials, hot areas on the screen, sound effect can be given, icons you can create. So these are the special effects that you can give to your graphics so that it looks more realistic. Okay, so using these tools whatever is supplied, so with various toolkits, okay, so you can make use of your make use of several toolkits available and you can create your own application, right? So all these are the different effects that you can give for your graphics. This is one special effect what we have that we can have here in graphics. You call it as rubber banding technique. So what is rubber banding? You can just see here this diagram. See, suppose I'm using a mouse, okay, to interact with the graphics. So I'll just click the mouse in one position. So here in this position I'll click, okay, any one button I will use, and I'll just click the mouse button here in this position, and then I'll move the mouse here to this position without releasing the button. Remember, I'll click the mouse button here and I will not release the mouse button, and I'll simply move the mouse without releasing over here into this position. And you can see this dashed line, and it's a gray line which indicates that mouse button is not released, it is still in the pressed state. Okay, so now the mouse is moved to the next position here. Initially I started from this position, I clicked and I simply moved the mouse here. I'm simply moving the mouse to this position without releasing. Again I'm moving the mouse to this position without releasing. I moved it here without releasing, and finally I moved it here, and here in this position I will release the mouse button. The moment I release the mouse button, what should happen? A line should be drawn here on the screen. And you could see here what has happened. Wherever I moved the mouse button, the line also moved along with me. A line was drawn actually. See, I clicked here in this position. You would have seen this in Paint application. You would have seen this feature in Paint application. You click on one position and you simply move the mouse. See, you have selected a line there. You want to draw a line. So a line is drawn there, but the line is not simply fixed in one position. The line is also moving along with the mouse because you have not released the mouse button. When the line will be drawn, the moment you click and release the mouse button there, or the moment you release the mouse button there, at that position actually the line will be finally drawn. So this particular option or feature is available in Paint. The same feature, the same particular function, you can say appearance, same type of graphics you can display here even using OpenGL function. Okay, you can just see here a mouse is moved in different positions, but in all these positions the line is not drawn. It is simply shown as a dashed line. Why? Because the mouse button is not released. Finally the line is drawn the moment you release the button. So this particular function or this particular operation I can perform. You can call this as a rubber banding technique. So this particular operation I can perform using a special function, special callback function. And here, even though I'm using mouse for doing this, I don't make use of mouse callback function, but instead a special callback function, and I call it as glut motion function. Okay, so you call this as a glut motion function. So this is a special callback function that is called especially for such type of rubber banding technique. So wherein a mouse is used as an input device to do this, but the position what it returns, it is the first position it will return here. When you call glut motion function, the first position where you have clicked, XY position is written, but all these positions wherever you move the mouse button, that is also equally important for us. It's not just the last position where you release, but here all these positions wherever you have moved the mouse, all these positions are also equally important here. In order to return all these positions wherever you have moved the mouse, so I require this glut motion function. So the line is drawn there. See, wherever you have moved the mouse, so everywhere I require this values to be returned. So the line should be drawn in all these positions, and finally the moment I release, the line should stop here. The line is finally drawn here and it is finally stopped here. You call this as rubber banding technique.